Today, I want to talk about the crazy crooked line. I don't know. Have you ever, I know you have, of course you have, looked at a river on a map, like, and where you can look at a good section of the river. It's like where Joy and I live right now. It's near a place called River Bend, and the North Saskatchewan River runs right through the middle of Edmonton. And, parts of it are kind of straight and parts of it are very, meandering, wandering. And that's why I use this river background today. Rivers go wherever they need to get to lower ground. And it isn't always a straight line, but it's the easiest for the water. The easiest for the water is not to try to get over or past everything, right? So, one of the interesting things about water is that it does go the easiest way, even if it looks like that sometimes. And when we build our lives, or when I built my life or business, I don't know, I was under the myth idea that somehow it was going to be a straight line, right? And of course, it never is. And even though I know that, and you know that, I don't know about you, but sometimes that not straightness causes just all kinds of emotional difficulty for me. I have a story sometimes that I must be doing something wrong. I must be doing something wrong because it's so crooked, because nothing's going the way that I thought that it would ahead of time. I'll give you an example. I got 3 songs right now I'm trying to get finished. I'm finishing up for the first release on the third album. Now, um, if you want to know the first 2 albums, they're on Spotify, and I'll put the link to my Spotify list below this video. But here's the thing. I'm working on these first 3 songs. The name of the album is Oasis, and they're songs just like Leading to Your Ultimate Life, songs of one's called Forgiveness, and one's called Invitation, and one's called Be a Light. Anyway, so I've been working on these 3 songs for a while, and they're done. They're all recorded, and I'm in the mixing process. And mixing can be very complicated because you're trying to get it just right so that when the end listener hears it, everything's where it ought to be and it sounds good and everything's got the right volume. And so, as an engineer, an audio engineer, that mixing part's hard. It's fun, but it's hard. So, the first 2 songs I got done were Be a Light and Forgiveness, and they're done, and the mixes are gorgeous. I can't wait to get them up as part of this 3-song package that I'm going to put up on Spotify. And like I said, I'll put the link to the albums in the comments below this in case you want to listen to them. First 2 albums come from the book of Tightrope of Depression. The first album are stories from this book, Tightrope of Depression, My Journey from Darkness, Despair, and Death to Light, Love, and Life. So some of these are kind of dark stories, dark songs. And then the second album is called Promise and Power, and it tells stories from this book, Down from the Gallows. Now, I'm in the process of writing the third book, which will be the conclusion of that trilogy. It never was supposed to be a trilogy. It was only supposed to be one book. And then making the third album. And so that's where these 3 songs come from. And the name of this third album is Oasis. And it's supposed to be an oasis in the desert. But anyway, here's the crooked line part. So those first 2 songs, Forgiveness and Be a Light, the mixes went really well and I got them done. And then I got all the recording done on the third one, which is Invitation, which is a powerful, life-changing event that happened in my life. And it was an invitation to change and do things. And that's what the song's about. And I was been mixing it for 2 days. And I thought I had it. I thought I had it all done. I thought I was square, straight line stuff, right? And then yesterday I started tweaking it a little bit. Well, what about a little more of this and a little more of this? And finally last night at about 7, I quit. I was frustrated. And then I got unfrustrated. I realized this is just not a straight line. This is out of balance. And then I listened to the vocals and they sounded boxy. They didn't sound open and spacious, and all the technical drivel about mixing probably doesn't interest you unless you do that sort of thing. but it made me just relax and lean into it. So I've got a coaching call as soon as I get done with this live stream. And then I'm going to go back to the studio. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to back up and see what's going on and have the vocals return like they need to. And it'll take twice as long, 2 times as long. The other songs maybe took 8 hours to mix. And this one is going to take 16 by the time I spend 2 or 3 more hours on it. And so I liken that to business. I liken it to life and anything else. Like I've been working hard on personal development, trying to make something out of me different for 15 years. I had in 2007 a divine intervention that changed my life, and I wrote about it in Tightrope. And that happened in 2007 and changed everything I was doing. But it didn't fix me. It changed my direction. So suddenly I changed directions, 180, and I'm going a new way. And the work that it took to undo the effects of 35 years of untreated depression and all the catastrophe and battlefield that I'd had behind me was a lot. It was a massive amount of work. And so the first 4 or 5 years, from 2007 to probably 11 or so, 12, was just working on me. What am I doing? How do I learn how to be a person? How do I learn how to tell the truth? How do I learn how to look at events that happen instead of blaming me and everything's my fault? How do I be a regular person in the world? And that's the stuff that I'm talking about in the first album and in that book, Tightrope. And that's the whole thing, the crazy, crooked line. And including those 5 years, I've been working now 15 years on being a better person, being the best me possible, all that good stuff we talk about as coaches and personal development people. And just because we're people and we want to do good in the world, right? So that these books, these 3 books and these 3 albums tell that story of the river bends and the switchbacks and the messes and the struggles and I didn't do that right, I got to fix it, and I'll never get there, and all the rest of the stuff that happens to all of us. Because I'm a coach and I made a choice after I left a 30-year career in 2007, I made a choice to become a coach. I made that choice because I recognized, wow, I've had a lot of really interesting and difficult experiences. Difficult for me. Maybe they would have been a breeze for somebody else. I don't know. But hard for me. They were tailored for me. They're life through my own lenses. And I've had that happen and be my experience. And that's given me a gift. And the big gift that it's given me is several things. Number one, patience. The river behind me, it's flowing along at the speed that it flows. It doesn't matter if I yell at it. It doesn't matter what I do. It's going to flow like it flows. That realization has created for me patience. It's going to flow like it flows. And the more I argued with the flow, the more frustrated I got, and the flow didn't change. The more I got excited when things went right. Then I got impatient, and the flow was still the flow of the river. And so sometimes people talk about, I'm in a collapse time. Well, you're not going to collapse time, ever. The only thing you're going to do is realize that the expectations you had of how long something was going to take might be off by 3 degrees of magnitude. It might take only 1/100th of the time you imagined that it would, because the way I was thinking about it was assuming negativity, assuming slow growth, assuming just crawling along, when the real possibility was exponential growth. And so the idea of collapsing time is just adjusting my expectations to realize that the path can be way different. It's like space travel, faster than light travel, right? we think the fastest you can move from A to B is the speed of light. And in science fiction, and maybe it'll be science fact, wormholes and other things cause the space to move together. And so you've instantaneously crossed that distance. That's the idea about having things take less time. And in our limited vocabulary, we talk about collapsing time. We're just adjusting our expectations to recognize the power of the infinite. I know for myself, life continues to evolve in the crazy, crooked line, the crazy, crooked way. And when I am at peace with that process, then there's nothing to be fussed about. So I'm wondering every day now, I look at myself and say, where am I out of sync? Where am I out of sync? Because the flow, the Tao, what is, didn't get out of sync. Only I did. I got out of sync. I expected something to be different. I want something to be different. I demand something be different. And you know what? It doesn't happen. What changes things is how I approach life, my attitude, my allowance to live within the confines, not even confines, within the truth of reality, and then allow the miracles to happen that adjust my own expectations, And then we tap into that ability to move space together, like in time travel or space travel, right? We actually get to do that, and we can do it with projects. We can do it with building business. We can do it with our level of happiness. Sometimes we think, oh, it's going to take a long time to anything, fix that relationship or make something new happen. And you know what? It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. Our expectation that it takes a long time drives our actions. And then it takes a long time for me because I expected it to. Now, the crooked line with mixing the song, like I talked about at the beginning of the broadcast, that's the way it is. But you know what? I know that if I go back there today, when I do go back there today after my next coaching call, that I'll be able to make that magic like the first two. And then those new songs will be up. They'll be up on Spotify, and I'll be sharing them with you. And they're oasis songs. One's, like I said, one's about forgiveness, about the joy and the liberation of forgiveness. And one's called Invitation, which is an invitation to live in the brightness of love. And one's called Be a Light, which is a choice that I make and that you can make about being a light to others. When I finally learned, most of the time at least, to focus all my energy and effort on being a light and serving, all of my problems shriveled up. They didn't go away. They didn't fix them, but they seemed easy and they seemed smooth. They seemed like this river just flowing toward a solution. And that happens. I don't know why. I don't know how the magic happens. I think it's fueled by love. I think it's fueled by service. And what I know is every time I do that, I just love and serve, life gets smooth like this river, and it just flows in the right direction. That discovery and all the others I talked about in the books, Tightrope and Down from the Gallows, and the songs that I wrote telling the stories are what fuels me as a coach. My commitment. I only do one thing. People ask, well, what do you do? I only do one thing. I have committed this year, 2022, to help 10 million people discover, develop, and serve with their divine gifts. Because I've discovered that's a way to happiness. And I believe it can be yours too. So my invitation to you is to see if I can help you. Unless you're already as happy as you can stand. And if you are, I'd love to meet you and talk anyway. Why? Because I love meeting people that are living that way. I love meeting people that are living every day as a dream. Because I know what that feels like now, after countless decades of doing dumb stuff. Today, life is like this river, smooth and flowing in the right direction. And every twist and turn is just part of the plot. And it's fun and it's joyful. I invite you to connect. I invite you to have a conversation, but more than anything, I invite you to look at your own life and realize where you are getting in the way, is the typical way to say it, but where you're causing unnecessary ripples in this beautiful flow. Because you can have that life of purpose, prosperity, and joy today. I know, because I went from misery to joy. I went from confusion to clarity. It's possible. I love it. And now my mission is to help every person I can talk to live in clarity and peace and fun and all the rest of the good stuff. We'll see you tomorrow.